You might be looking back at your old experiences, from the past, and you are made to feel crazy. You are made to feel like, you speaking up, you standing up for yourself was somehow too militant. You're doing too much. It's not even that serious. That's what they tell you. All the gaslighting phrases that they say to you to basically neutralize your voice, to stop you from speaking on what is actually happening to you. You see, part of you knew that there was something wrong, that there was something off, but you were made to believe that you cannot trust your own judgment. You cannot trust your own intuition and your own knowledge of what is happening to you. The fact that your nervous system and your mind is being violated in a psychological and spiritual way. It's an unseen thing, but yet it's taking a toll on you as your brain is being rewired to become someone that does not think for themselves, someone who only lives to serve those who oppress them, those who abuse them. This thing is deep, I'm telling you, man. This thing is so, so deep. And for any of you guys out there that have awakened from this, you hold a lot of power, and you were chosen to collect as many keys of wisdom as you can to unlock all kinds of things that will literally become your freedom, your liberation from all of this. Your ability to heal in the process. Because all healing really is just the ability to rewire your brain. And one of the biggest ways to do that is by finding different ways to perceive things, different perspective. Having a new refreshed perspective is very helpful in healing, because now you're changing, you're shifting the way that you view something that used to oppress you. Now, it no longer has power over you, because it's all about how you look at it, how you look at the experience. It's everything. Because at the end of the day, we can't go back in time and stop things. But I'm at a point where, me personally, I'm glad that things happened the way they did, because it enabled me to become who I am now. And I know a lot of people say that it's a cliche thing, but seriously, like, I'm in a point right now where, I'm so above all of that. I have ascended far higher than my lowest points, that, there's nothing that they can do to bring me down. Because, like, once you've been through your lowest moments, it's like, and you found the code, you cracked the code on how to not just get back to where you were, but you're doing a lot better than you ever did, because I'm at a point where I don't think I've ever been this happy ever in my life. I can't think of a moment in the past where I was happier then than now. No, actually, it seems like as the day goes by, every day that goes by, I feel more powerful. I feel more amazing. There has not been a day where I felt more amazing than I do today. And I know for a fact that every day that goes by is only going to get better. It's only going to get better. So, because I have already found out how to maintain this, how to keep this energy the way that it is, and wisdom and understanding all these things, like, it just helps so much. On top of, keeping myself busy, learning new things, and, learning new skills, and just enhancing myself, that right there, that's what's going to give you this refreshing, this refreshing feeling. You're going to feel like life is actually worth it, because you're living your life not just for God, but you're living your life for yourself, to just you. You don't have somebody else breathing down your neck, just giving you hell, right? So your silence, we're going to get to this now. Your silence, right? I understand that silence can sometimes serve as a strategy for survival. Yes, and when you were in that dynamic, right? See, there's a time for everything, and so sometimes for some people, silence is the best way to go. But eventually, you're going to break out of that, and it's going to come a time when you have to do what you have to do. You know, no, by you speaking up, here's the thing that they like to tell you. A lot of abusers, they try to shame you from acknowledging the reality of how the reality of what you've been through. All the pain, the traumas that you've experienced at the hands of this individual. It's like they don't want you to acknowledge your own pain. They don't want you to acknowledge the reality that you actually faced, because that would mean that they have to take accountability for what they've done to you, and they don't want that. Understand that is why they gaslight you. They gaslight you not because they don't know that they've hurt you, that they've abused you. It's not that they don't know that. Oh, they know that. They just don't want you to know. They don't want you to be aware of what's being done to you and what has been done to you. Because then that would mean that, you know too much, you're too aware, too awakened, which means that you're going to be on their ass. And they don't like that. They don't like that because they feel like you could see them, and that's why they play all these mind games. They play all these mind games because they don't want you to look at them for who they are, but they still want to be able to abuse you and get away with whatever they can, right? They still want to be able to do those things without you actually being aware of that. So that way they could pretty much, have it all, basically. Just selfish, just pure selfishness. But when you're like, man, when you're sharp, when you've seen this before, when you just know, when you're highly intuitive and spiritually gifted, I mean, it's kind of hard for them to get away with stuff. That's why I kind of thought it was hilarious that, some individuals have thought that I would never know. And it's like, man, you have no idea what I know, But sometimes it's good to play dumb, or they just assume you're dumb, maybe because you look young. You look young and pretty, so they don't think you know anything, right? That's the funny part. Till they realize that they were dead wrong and you've been taking notes the whole time, mental tabs and remembering every little fuck shit that they tried to pull. And then they're in for a surprise when they realize how much they really cannot manipulate you, So it's the funniest thing ever. But here's the thing too. One thing I want to say, I want to emphasize this, is that by you speaking up, because it's going to come a time, give it some years or give it some, however long you need, right? You speaking up about what was done to you, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you owning your own narrative, with you speaking the truth about what happened to you and what you've been through for the purpose of spreading awareness about it, spreading awareness about abuse, and also to help other survivors, to uplift other people that have been through the same thing. There's nothing wrong with sharing your story. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with having a testimony that you want to share with people. But again, the abusers, they'll try to silence you. They're going to try to do that. And the reason why they are so obsessed with silencing you is because, again, I mean, for obvious reasons, they don't want to be exposed, they themselves, as an individual, but also as a collective, abusive people in general. They want to keep all this stuff in the dark. That way they can get away with more things. They can constantly have, victims at their disposal. And the sad reality is that, to be honest, man, these abusers, I don't think that they're going to ever run out of people to control, because there's always somebody that's going to believe in their bullshit. You've ever noticed that? They just never figure them out. They believe in whatever they say, Now, yes, there is a thing as a narcissistic collapse. Over time, they get worse. And when they lose the so-called yes man, yes women, in their life, they don't know what to do. The reason why they want to silence you so bad is because, they have to continue on with the false narrative about you, so that they don't have to ever face the consequences for what they've done. That's the last thing they want to do. And also, they try to convince you that by you speaking up for yourself, by you standing up to you, by you standing up, they try to convince you that, that you brought dishonor. Somehow you speaking up brings dishonor to the dynamic, whatever we're talking. No, it's not the survivor who speaks up against abuse. They're not the problem. They did not bring dishonor by speaking up. The ones who brought dishonor are the abusers. The people who perpetrated the abuse in the first place, they are the ones who are the problem. You know what's so messed up is that in some of these dynamics, there's people that will still believe in the abuser. They're going to still believe in them and say, they'll side with them because, like I said, it's all about image. It's all about, looking good, right? And they could care less about justice. They could care less about actually helping survivors. Most people would rather side with the abuser because they have this mentality of like, if you can't beat them, join them. Well, what if we can't beat them? How about that? You can beat them. You think that evil has more power over good? Now you might think that that's the case because we live in this world, and unfortunately, you do have a point when it comes to that. However, when you are so connected to the divine source, right? When you have this fiery faith, this fiery spiritual energy, when you have a powerful voice and presence, you could give a damn who stands beside you, who leaves, who's with you, who's not with you, who walks out the door, or who joins your team. You really don't care, because at the end of the day, you know that you're standing in the right side. You know that you stand with the Most High because you know God. You know God more than most people do. And so you understand that what you believe in and what you know to be true is indeed the truth, which means that it doesn't matter how many people stand with you. As long as God stands with you, that's pretty much all you need, because justice will be served one way or another. Spiritual justice misses no one. Okay? So I have a very powerful faith, so many different experiences that, that I've had where I'm just like, wow, like there's no sense of not having faith. And I didn't always have faith. This is coming from someone that used to be skeptical and agnostic and pretty much didn't really believe like that until, a lot of knowledge and all types of information and experiences on top of that really awakened me in so many different ways. So there's moments where we had to stand on our own. There was moments, for the most part, a lot of us, we've been on our own, for the most part. We've been loners, and we have been able to overcome so much adversity. It's crazy to even fathom, the fact that, wow, like, how did we make it this far? Most people would break. And that actually leads me to believe that some of us, I really truly believe some of us really have this purpose, this mission that has been engraved in stone somewhere or something, because it's almost like it was predetermined for us to get to this point. It feels so surreal. It's so surreal for me. Like, I think about where I could have been and I think about the situations I could have been in, and I'm just like amazed at where I'm at now, and I'm not even at my best. Like, I'm at my best compared to the past, but I'm not at my best. Courage. When you have courage, when you're a person who's fearless, you pretty much have it all, because nothing can stop you at that point. Once you get to a point where, you don't even care, like, a person, like, think about all the stuff you've been through. There's moments where you could have lost your life. There's moments where people threaten your life, and guess what happened after that? You're still living. You know, it's very trippy. Knowledge is something that really has helped me a lot, you know. But what helps me really understand this knowledge is life experiences. Life experience is a great teacher. You know, experiences teaches you a lot. So by the time you do encounter some scriptures, you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Perfect example, actually. I got a perfect example to illustrate what I'm talking about. And that is, I'm going to be taking you to 2016. You know, what is it? 2016, 2017, around that time. You know, I started having all these dreams, you know, very powerful dreams that carried a lot of spiritual symbolism. I remember sharing it with my significant other. And he was more well read on the Bible than I was, you know. So at that time, I didn't really. I of course I've read the Bible before, but not as much as he has. So I would have these dreams, and I would tell him about it, and then he would be like, "Oh, like certain symbolisms that I've seen in my dreams is actually in the Bible, and I didn't even know it." So when I had the dream, I had no knowledge that this stuff was already written. There was one dream that I had, you know, it was crazy, but it was like, apparently it looked like the end of the world, right? I was looking at the earth, right? There was a lot of explosions going on, and you know, I was kind of in the sky somewhere. And I felt like the explosion, like the fire, right? It almost touched me. You know, it was getting close to me, it was approaching. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I feel like I teleported, like, away from that. And it was like a blink of an eye, you know? Something like that. It had to do with the blink of an eye, just like that. It's like I literally transcended into another realm, you know, from the physical to a different dimension, like a more higher, like I basically transcended into a higher dimension, right? So that's basically what happened in the dream. And I just remember it was like from a blink of an eye. It was the phrase that came to my mind because of how quick, you know, I was moved from that place of destruction to a place of peace. And when I told him about it, you know, he said, you know, that's actually in the Bible. I was like, really? You know, and then the same pattern would persist. I mean, I can't think of the other dreams, but you know, I wrote them down somewhere. It's been such a long time, so I don't remember everything, but that's one that I can think of. And I was like, that's what prompted me to read it, the Bible and stuff like that. So I was like, that's interesting how I'm having dreams that have symbolism that is found in the Bible and stuff like that. And even there's so much stuff, man. It's incredible. Like let me tell you this. I will literally see it in my dreams before I see it in real life. I would dream about biblical stuff that I didn't even know was biblical, you know? So that's why I shared the dream. And then he would tell me where it was in the Bible. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't even know that. So now I feel like I want to read it now. And then I start reading it, and there you go. You see, so in a way, it's almost like I didn't really have to read it. It's like that's an example of, you know, the Bible already being within. The Word of God is within, right? That's an example. If I'm having dreams about stuff, and then you find out, oh, that's in the Bible, like, wow, you know. So there you go. And that's why, I really, really emphasize the importance of discernment when it comes to these dreams, because just as much as these dreams can be divine, some dreams can be deceptive as well, you know. And I think I'm gonna make a video in the future. In the future, I plan on making videos discussing how to tell when a dream is deceptive, because I think that will be very helpful. Because I know for me, because I've always had vivid dreams. I've had vivid dreams for since I was a kid, you know. So, and it only got even more vivid and more frequent, you know, the closer I became, you know, the more I grew spiritually, the more frequent these dreams would be, you know. And in the very beginning, you know, you have a combination of some very spiritual dreams, very powerful, potent, healing dreams, and then sometimes it would move on to, sometimes I'll have deceptive dreams as well, and it would be just as impactful in some cases. And a lot of times these deceptive dreams, you know, they like to they really cater to the wounds. Oh man, they really do. And they try to like fill in your emptiness, and you think that that's what you need in life, and turns out that that's not what you need at all. You know, you don't want to do that. Don't do that to yourself. You know, you have to find fulfillment from within. But the deceptive dream will tell you that the only way to feel happy is to look for something from the outside, you know, external validation and all this stuff. And yeah, you know, it's trying to tell you to seek out things that have nothing to do with what is already within you. Because within you, what is the kingdom of God, right? So they'll try to convince you to go outside of that, because they don't want you to find the kingdom of God within. So they have to always have you thinking that everything is external, you know, substances, you know, fill your wounds up with those substances. You'll bet you'll feel real good, you know. And whatever substance we're talking about, it could be not just drugs and alcohol, it could be other things, you know, other things that, you know, you shouldn't even be bothered with, you know, because it's gonna lead to some bullshit in the end. But we're not gonna get into, that's not what this video is about, right? I went on a whole nother tangent. You know, your voice is powerful. You have to understand that. Your voice is very powerful, and your abusers always hated it. And who cares? You know, so you have to understand that. And you just have to, like I say, you have to, before you speak about anything, you have to make sure that your spirit is aligned with truth, and you know, and you have that. Trust me, you'll know when you're ready. You know, everybody's different. You know when you're ready, and when you're ready, you know exactly what to do.